Boys from the Nisqually Trout Farm just dropped off my fish. I've got 400 baby trout in the back of my truck. I also got a couple bags of the feed. I have the feed for the larger fish at home, but this will be what they eat. Almost looks like pepper. It's that small the first month or so, and then this will size up, and then they'll have to move up to the much larger stuff. Heading down to the pond to put the fish in. Forgive me if the camera work isn't too good here. I'm trying to hold the camera and the box, find my way down this steep hill. They might be a little bigger than I expected. I was expecting 1 inches. These are almost 2. 400 of them. Here they are in the cooler they sent me home in with about 400 fingerlings, about 1.5 to 2 inches long. It's a little bit bigger than I expected. I'm about to release them in the pond. You can see on the side of the screen here I got a little bit of grassy area, and we've got the retaining wall bulkhead that has weathered away, and so there's pools behind it. So I'm going to release these in this grassy area and behind the bulkhead, and they can slowly work their way out. There are adult fish in here that will eat some of these. That's just the fact of the matter. And so, but by releasing them where they have a place to hide, the first few that get nailed by the larger fish, the rest will say, hey, this is not a good idea, and hide out until they know how to take care of themselves. So we're gonna pull them out of the bucket here. Here we go. Exciting times. Couple going out now. How'd you like that video of the fish swimming underwater? This old farmer's got some pretty fancy camera equipment, right? No, I put my iPhone in a Ziploc sandwich bag and dropped it in the pond to get that picture. I kind of liked it. Okay, a couple of fun stories about this pond while we're here. We used to put Donaldson trout in here, which are really fast growing. We even got some triploid, which are asexual, so they don't put any energy into their sex organs. They just grow really fast, and I fed them a lot then. And my son caught one that was close to 3 feet long, a trout out of this pond. So we've had some good times there. We used to have a zip line in that tree right behind me there, coming up to the tree that's right behind the camera here, and the kids would zip line down and drop into the pond, or they'd have a float that they'd try to land on and go from there. Good times there. One time my youngest son was holding a rope that was supposed to hold the float back while other people dropped on it, but he wasn't ready, and one of the bigger kids landed on the float after hitting out the zip line and just shot the float forward, and he's holding on to it. He was about 6 years old at the time, and just boom, the rope just took him and just flung him out into the depths of the pond. All good times here. Another good story, my pastor doesn't like to fish. He's not an outdoorsman, and he doesn't like being patient waiting for fishing. And he said, my son would like to go fishing, but we don't want to sit there all day and not catch a fish or wait for it. I said, come up to my pond and you can fish. And he stood actually right here, and this is before it got fished out, but I said, I guarantee you'll catch a fish here. And so standing right here on his first cast right out there, within seconds, probably 3 to 5 seconds, he had a bite, and he reels it in, he pulls up his line and drops on the bank, and 2 fish land up on the bank. And the fish were so hungry that one ate the hook with the bait, and the other one ate the split shot weight that looks just like the pellets that we feed him. There was no hook on it, but he swallowed it so aggressively it went down into his belly. So our pastor's son pulled up 2 fish within, he had them both on the line within 5 seconds of his first cast. So he had a good fishing experience here. Obviously, it's not that easy now, but there's some good times. So this trout pond that I currently have here is very loosely a triangle that kind of bows out, and from the bottom of the triangle to the point underneath that yellow raft that's buried in the blackberries up there, it gets deep. It goes from about 9 feet deep at this end to just slopes up to where you could walk your way right out the other side. So it's about 50-60 feet from this line to the far point, and then the base of the triangle is about 50 feet as well. So it's not a huge surface area, but it is deep. Okay, another fun story, and kind of how this pond is working. You can see my pond hasn't been cared for as much lately, but the sticks that you see sticking up there is a 6-inch PVC pipe that's completely vertical, and they kind of got stuck in there. And that pipe goes straight down 9 feet, and then it goes horizontally underneath the dam, and then it angles down slightly at about 15 feet. But anyway, I have screw-on caps that I can take off sections of that pipe so I can raise and lower the water level to any height that I want, and it just trickles over the top. The spring that feeds it keeps the water flowing in, and then it trickles over the top of that pipe and drains out. But one year I wanted to drain the pond and see, clean out the bottom and see how things were doing, and I created a pond to hold the fish in. And I took off a section of that pipe, and I put a net over it, and trying to keep the fish from going down it, because I had larger fish at the time. And but what I didn't realize is I missed with the net, and I didn't cover it. So when you take off a couple feet section of it creates an incredible vacuum. And by the way, it's quite dangerous actually when you do that. I have the top foot that was of that cap, so I could get the exact level I wanted. I had it so I could replace it, and I pulled it off one time, and the vacuum of 6 inches pipe going down and about 20 feet lower where it's releasing out of the pipes, my arm was over it, and my arm got sucked in there, and I separated my shoulder trying to pull my arm back out of that vacuum. And we had floaty toys that came over the top of that and just folded up and just shot down that thing. So if you're going to do this, you need to make sure that the top is secure. As long as water's trickling in and there's a lot of air with the water, you don't create that vacuum. But when you pull a section off and it just creates that rush down, whatever's over that pipe is going down. Okay, and so, but I put the net over that pipe, and I thought it made it so the fish wouldn't get there. Well, I missed with the net, and so water is just rushing out there and it's draining out, and my son's standing on the other side of the dam looking in like it's 20 feet lower, and it's shooting out into the tree, and all of a sudden my son goes, "Dad, there's fish shooting out." I look out, and I've got 16 to 20 foot long trout that are just getting in that pipe and just boom, 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 just flying out and just smacking against the tree that the water is now blowing out against. So I had to do what I could to stop the flow here, slow down the flow there, and then we went and tried to pick up as many fish that were slopping around in the water. Some were dead already. We had quite a barbecue that night. And then the ones that we could keep alive, we got back into the holding pond and kept them there until we cleaned out the pond and put them back in there. But that was another fun story. So what's going to happen with the fish that we bought today? Very simply, they're going to be part of my campground that I'm putting on the lower property. So if you've been watching my channel, I you know, with all the goats and chickens and the farming and all that that's going on the property that I've owned for the last 20 years and been slowly developing into a homestead farm. My property is so steep that the bottom half of it we can't hardly access to it, but the property that came up for sale that's just below my property, and we bought another 7 acres. And on it, it has several springs and whatnot, and we don't plan to put a home on it or anything just yet, but we're going to develop it into a campground for hipcamp.com. We're going to build a couple tiny homes on a trailer and set up a couple RV sites, and maybe even build a tree house that we can rent out, Airbnb and hipcamp.com. So anyway, there's springs and water on that, and so we're going to create some trout ponds, and so when people come and camp and visit our little campground area, they'll have a chance to catch some fish. And so they will not have access up to this pond. This is too close to our house, so we're going to keep people mostly on the lower property. But I'm going to put as these grow, I bought our campground, and that site probably won't be ready till next summer. But I'm just going to keep raising these in this pond this year. They might grow a little slower because I won't get down here. It's actually a decent distance from my house. I won't get down here and feed them as much as I should, but they'll keep growing. And then as people start camping on our lower property and fish out the little trout ponds that are there, I'll put a fish trap in here and just catch 5, 10, 15, whatever I need to go restock the ponds down there. And then families that are staying in our little area, our guests, will have a chance to see fish swimming around in nice clear water and hopefully have a chance to catch them. But I know, if a couple comes out and wants to stay at our campground and they have a 5 or 6 year old, and they go out and they can catch some fish and have some fun time, they'll really enjoy it and they'll probably come back. So this is all part of preparing for the future for the campground that we're going to be opening up on our new lower property. And there will be lots of videos to come on building the tiny homes, developing it, buying an excavator, putting in the road there, and how we're going to try to attract people to our own little campground. By the way, we need a name for it. Right now, Yeti Hill is the leader because the boys like telling Sasquatch, Bigfoot stories around here. I have some friends that believe they've seen Bigfoot. So anyway, we got to come up with a name. It's a hilly area out in the woods of Washington State. So anyway, if you have a good idea for a name for a little campground getaway spot, I'd love to hear it.